At this point of the show, I would like to bring in my special guest. Her name is Shelley Tzorfas. And again, Shelley, you on the call with us?
Yes, hi.
Hey,
hi, that's Bill. Hi, how are you?
Great,
I'm
great.
excited to be on the show with you.
Great. Yes, everyone, as I mentioned before in the intro, she's been doing this for 20 years and basically focusing on, special needs in reference to tutoring, learning assessment, looking at people. And I've been very lucky to been in contact with her. And like everyone knows, on my thing in reference to my daughter with autism, she has given me great insights, and I think we're going to go, forward with it. So again, Shirley, it's your platform. How did you get started with all this?
A really long time ago when I was a kid, I could barely read or write, and I went to a really great high school, and I really thought I was retarded. I didn't know why I couldn't do anything, but I hid it so I wouldn't get in trouble. And then I went on to college, and then I went on to my master's degree, and it wasn't until I was 25 that I finally figured out what was wrong. I was an undiagnosed dyslexic person, and I was a little pissed off that no one knew how to get me to read and write, or they didn't even know I didn't know how. So I actually started to work with other people's children, thinking maybe what I learned would help them. And sure enough, they all started to do very well. Most of the kids I worked with back then, I would say, had dyslexia. So, but the other thing is that I also had undiagnosed double vision. I had moved to Manhattan. I went to School of Visual Arts, and right up the block was it was a big institution for just the eyes. It was, and they put me into a year's worth of what they called vision training. Vision training, your left eye and your right eye do not work together and do not team up. So they actually see independently. So, for example, today, whenever you see a child trying to read or write or draw, and they're leaning over the desk, and their left arm is extended, and their face is resting in the crux of their arm, I immediately understand that this child has undiagnosed double vision. So no reading program out there is going to get that child to read. What's necessary, and I teach this in Recovering Autism, ADHD, and Special Needs, which is my book on Amazon. Mm-hmm. I teach people how to do the eye exercises.
Pardon, but can you explain that again so people can have an idea of what you just said? And again, I think it's worthy to explain again for the double vision and all.
Yeah. So whenever a child is leaning over at the table or the desk and their arm is extended and their face is in their arm, and teachers say, oh, he's lazy, she's not motivated, it has nothing to do with it. It means that their left and their right eye are not working as a team. And so when they try to see, let's say, words on the page, they literally move off the page. They superimpose onto the wall. So I learned to include this in all of my work because the majority of kids that are having trouble reading, regardless of the diagnosis, have this. So it's a clue, and I teach how you can learn to do the eye exercises with your own child. They're very simple, but they're very important. So all of a sudden, what they're doing when they're leaning over like that is they're blocking one eye. That's why they're leaning. They're looking out of only one eye. So that's a tremendous clue for. My God, not only children have this, but you'll see some seniors have this, some regular people have it. Even people, who was it? Was it John Travolta who said that he was dumb in school and the words seemed to move? I wish I could call him and tell him, hey, it's not dyslexia just because the things move. See, the child doesn't know they're seeing wrong. And by the way, nor does most eye doctors. Most eye doctors don't even look for this. They're trained in near vision, far vision, glasses, but they're not really trained in how to get the two eyes to work together.
So I want to ask you, Shirley. So when someone has this condition, did you have it or?
I had it. I had I had it. It was way back when, and I didn't know how to read and write. And as soon as my eyes started to be fixed, I could learn to read in a nanosecond. In fact, I have a funny thing that happened. I was living in Manhattan at the time, and I was walking down one of the avenues, and I saw that the cars far away were small, but when I got there, they were big, and I was going, what is this? I know the car didn't grow. Does everybody see like that? Because you also lose perspective. You don't have good perspective. And I was looking and going, I know that's a small car, and all of a sudden I learned that things got smaller as they got further away. Can you believe that?
Well, so that's like a condition. So when someone, a child, and I'd never heard of this kind of a diagnosis, and this is what you do. I mean, to everyone on the show, please share this with everyone, your friends and your family and your neighbors. Definitely, you want to share this show because how many kids are out there? You know, and they say, well, they can't read, they have dyslexia, and all, and they have all these other issues, and it could be something like this. So you're saying that because of the two different eyes, when you read something, one eye is looking at one word, and the other eye is like all the words are being fuzzy, or they're moving?
Right, so it can be the other words are being fuzzy, but the biggest part of this is that the words will literally seem to run away from you when you try to look at them. They'll literally move off the page. They'll move around, and the kids will hate to read because they're very tired, or they get a headache when they try to read because everything's moving, and they don't know that it's not supposed to move. Nor do the special ed teachers or all the social workers. No one knows this. So I'm going to venture to say that it's more than 95% of all children that are sitting rotting in special ed have this condition. It's very, very basic. I
mean, I never had that issue, you know. I might get bored of looking at words, whatever, but I never had that circuit. But I'm just trying to understand here how, and being normal vision, you know, whatever you want to call it, you know, regular normal vision, whatever, saying that I just can't imagine that you're trying to read a paragraph or sentences, whatever, and then your one eye is looking at one letter or word, and then all the other words are just jumping around all over the place. I mean, that must be so frustrating. How did you compensate for such craziness like that?
How did I compensate?
Yeah.
I called up kids the night before we had to discuss a novel. When I was in high school, and I'd ask them what was the main idea, who was the author, what did you think of it. I would take 5 different people's ideas, raise my hand, and argue with the teacher on what the author meant when he wrote the passage because I couldn't read it. I didn't even know what color the book was. But that's a long time ago. You know, you'll have to go home and double-check whether the words seem to move when you're reading. It's not like one eye sees one word. Mm-hmm. It's more like everything just bounces around the page. You're not going to be that cognizant, but you'll double check. So when I wrote Recovering Autism, ADHD, and Special Needs, I put the book into 2 columns, starting on way into some of the chapters, because I want people to see that these kids read better, the ones that read, when you give him a magazine. And the joke is, he'll read Sports Illustrated, but the minute it's a school book, he won't bother with it. Well, that joke isn't so funny because most of the magazines have narrow columns. And when you have narrow columns, this eye tracking problem barely exists. You don't have it. But when you have to read from the left to the far right, that's when it's a problem. Now, I want to take it a step further. When we're looking at severely autistic kids, the ones at the low end, you'll see a lot of them kind of staring off into the corner of the wall, like they can do it all day. They'll just stare at something. But what you don't know is they're making a movie, because if the corner of the wall, let's say, has a window on one wall and a plain wall on the other, they're actually superimposing the window to the wall and the wall to the window. Most of them have this vision issue, and they're actually staring off at things moving. It's not a psychiatric problem. It's not a mental disorder. Part of it is a physical eye problem that anybody can learn to correct.
Now, how would you notice a child, someone? Would the eyes are off a little bit? Like one eye might be off a little bit. Is that part of it?
Yes. In extreme cases, you can look at a person, and one eye is looking at you, and the other eye, let's say, is all the way to the right. Yeah. They probably have it, or if they're an adult, they've learned to compensate for it, or they've been reading out of one eye. Like I said, they've been leaning over with the face in their arm, so they're blocking one eye. But
you're actually saying that these kids, what they do, they lean over and they try to block out one eye so they can see only one eye so they can read to compensate.
Right. That's right.
I mean, you kind of scared me last time we spoke about 2 days ago, and I just got to get to know you, and I had to, from last week, and I needed to get you on the show because people need to hear this. Because again, this is pretty incredible. When you mentioned that the eye might be off a little bit, I have personally noticed on my own daughter that I noticed that one of her eyes was off a little bit.
That's perfect because, see, I didn't mean to scare you, but everything I mentioned is fixable.
Yes.
Autism is up to 50 layers of illness, and one of the main layers is the eyes not tracking. It's actually, the bad news turns out to be very good news.
Yes.
But when you fix each individual layer, and then you look over your shoulder and you say, oh, now she can see words and they're not moving. Okay, what do I do next? Oh, she has itchy skin. Now what do I do next? Very, very practical how-tos in my work, so you can work with each layer. They don't do this in school.
No.
They don't do this in therapy. They don't really do much of this in ABA. They don't do this at the pediatrician. They don't do it in
nowhere.
The Orton Gillingham Learn to Read method or the Wilson program. Nobody seems to realize how to pull all of these layers together, which is why I wrote this book.
And
everything I teach is in there.
Wow. And where people can get it, let's mention your website.
Okay, well, they can, let's see, the website is betterschoolresults.com, but to order the book, they just go to Amazon. Mm-hmm. It just went up it's on Kindle. I think it's just going up on Lulu, and hopefully in a few weeks it might even be on Audible because not everybody likes to read. But in addition to, and I also have a business called Specialized Tutoring Learning Assessments. My contact is my email is stzorfas@gmail.com, and my phone number is 310-801-8098 if you want an assessment. My assessment is not this big hoity-toity thing to find out the child's IQ. I'm going to look at the eyes. I'm going to look at the skin. I'm going to look at the way they grip the pencil. I'm going to look at the way they lean. I'm going to decide, are they learning visually, auditorily, or kinesthetically? A lot of kids can only learn using their hand. The hand is like, the hand becomes like the mouse of a computer. They have to touch things or move about to learn something. So each person is different. There's nothing new about that. However, with the magnitude of things I do, I'm going to work with the one child and get to all what I call the glitches to uncover. I'm going to work with the eyes. I'm going to work with the skin. And every single thing is going to lead that child to either read, write, to enjoy learning again. A major thing that I include in my work is I include drawing and painting. It's very, very important because in the school system, especially with Common Core, they've narrowed everything down to a bunch of memorizing facts. And not everybody is a good test taker. So if you just turn out a bunch of kids who've memorized facts, then you've locked down the creative side of their brain, which is one half of the brain, and all you're going to get is a bunch of worker bees. So I teach drawing, I teach painting, I might include photography. Most of the kids that I work with over the past 20, 25 years have gone on to win awards in a variety of fields. I had one child win an award in writing. He hated to write. I had I had a young college man win an award and get published for his photography. It turned out to be amazing. I had someone win a science award, though I'm no scientist. And on and on, because what I'm looking for is what's the talent in that one individual. But see, this thing with the eyes, I can't even imagine what would happen in special education if the teachers were taught to look at the children's eyes. Imagine that. I mean, we would have so much better results than what we have now. We have today 1 in every 5 children is now neurologically impaired. 1 in every 6 children in America is developmentally disabled. 1 in every 50 children have autism. And in some areas, like in New Jersey, it's 1 in every 26 boys, and growing at a fast pace. And none of these experts are trained in what to do. They're not. Just because someone has a PhD doesn't mean they know how to look for the eyes or look for the skin. I mean, the poor parent is left running from expert to expert, hoping to find the one who's going to figure out what to do. Well, why don't they know what autism is? They don't know what autism is because it is up to 50 multiple layers of illness. So what are you going to do? You're going to run to the one eye doctor who knows vision training, or you're going to run to the one person who knows skin, or you're going to run to the one person who knows the gut, or you're going to run to the one teacher. You're going to go crazy. You have to have like an architect overseeing all of these different areas, and that's why I put my book together, because I pull up all of the areas. I pull up why you have to rewrite the IEPs. The IEP, the individual educational plan, I'm sure you have one for your child, are almost worthless today, because when they were first developed, they wrote about your child, but today most of the IEPs are sitting on a computer. A new kid comes in, they either pop up IEP-A or IEP-D. Did you know that? Which has nothing to do with your child. So in the years that your child is getting all these services, there's no new goals. There's nothing that, I'm sure we can change most children's name and put the same IEP. You wouldn't know the difference. They're pre-written. You can't let them do that. You've got to look and assess where she's at now and figure out where do you get her to the next step.
And again, everyone, you can go to betterschoolsresults.com.
Right. School is singular. School is singular. Results is plural.
Yes, everyone. Please go to the site. This will be archived on PRN as well, on Gary's site on PRN, and also on our NDC Savings Club radio show. You can go on there, ndcsavingsclub.com, and this is also going to be archived. I mean, this is pretty incredible that no one really knows what to do, and that's and we're talking about probably tens of thousands of kids, that have an issue.
Millions, not tens of thousands, millions. Now, I want to step back a minute. So the ADHD, I want your listeners to know, there's a lot of concepts out there, depending who you study or who you believe. But I'm going to tell you, the truth is that most ADHD, which stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, stems from an infection in the gut. So what happened? So perhaps after a baby vaccine, the child got an ear infection, and maybe it was serious. So, of course, they took an antibiotic to kill the ear infection. The antibiotic kills the bad bacteria, but it also kills the good bacteria. So if you do that a few times, the yeast, the candida, the yeast that's in the gut and is normal, starts to grow up. And it starts to, I call it spores. It starts to eat the mucus lining of the intestines. It chomps like Pac-Man. And then all of a sudden, that child will have that yeast infection maybe for most of their life till someone figures it out. So the first thing you want to do with ADHD is you want to take some steps to get rid of the yeast. Now, a lot of people think boys don't have yeast infections. Well, they do. They just don't come out in the orifice the way the girl does. But it can come out as a sinus infection. The mucus can come out as a pink eye and other issues. But so the first thing you want to do is put your child on some healthy probiotics, not the kind in a drugstore, but the kind in a very good quality health food store, or from someone you trust, like Dr. McCullough, or even Natural News, or I don't know if Gary sells that, but if he does have probiotics, that would be trustworthy. And then put them on a high dose, and don't just do it once. Get like 3 different kinds and rotate one kind on Monday, another kind on Tuesday, another kind on Wednesday, because we don't really know exactly which strain they have. So I like to rotate them and cover all of them and do that for a really long time. Now, if the yeast infection is significant, where it's pouring out and the child's sick, then you could possibly consider getting a doctor to write a prescription for oral nystatin or oral diflucan, but good luck finding one. Often a regular doctor will only write it if he's about to prescribe antibiotics. You can say, hey, doc, my kids had so many of these, would you mind giving me, a prescription? But don't call them later and ask them for a prescription, because if you call them the next day, they'll say, oh, we have to bring her in and test her. Well, that's ridiculous. So just assume if she's got a bunch of antibiotics, or she had some when she was 1 and a few more at 2 and a few more at 7, just assume that that's part of the issue. That's why the ADHD kids get worse after a meal, because if they are yeasty, and I'm going to say most of them are, then they're going to get hyper after bread, because bread turns to sugar in the body, or to fruit, because fruit is sugar, or to, obviously ice cream or cake, because now any child, regardless of your levels, is going to have a hyperactivity based on some chemical that was created from what they were eating, something as basic as bread or spaghetti or pizza, and that's about everything that most of these children eat, and then they crave. The one who's got the infection, it's not just that they want pizza, they have to have pizza. They crave it. So you can start to learn about this in my book, because I don't know too many children without this infection.
Now, that's in your book, Recovering Autism and ADHD. Right. And special needs. So, we just ordered the book last week, so we're looking to get it in, both books. By the way, we have about another 4 or 5 minutes left, which is amazing, and you got a lot of great information here, Shelley. I mean, really, I think the listeners would, definitely are going to definitely need this information. But let's talk. You also came out with a new book, also.
Right. And the name of that book is The Road Too Often Traveled, and then it goes on to say, a collection of articles on learning disabilities, autism, ADHD, dyslexia, special needs, and related issues. I usually type in The Road Too Often Traveled, a collection of articles, because it's too long for me to type it in. It's very easy to read, short book. And actually, for your listeners, it will be free on Kindle April 24th.
Great.
So they might like to download it and read it that way. Though actually having the physical book is far better, because you're going to want to share this stuff with other people. I mean, I appreciate any dollar I get from a book, but really my motivation is we have the sickest children on the planet is right here in the United States, and it's almost criminal. And so I just want I want libraries to pick it up. I just need people to know this stuff. TV has to pick this up, because, if you can go in and do some eye exercises and determine which way your child learns and get rid of the eczema, which is often a milk allergy, and milk is pure poison. There's nothing okay in regular milk. And our government sponsors the milk farmers. There's nothing. Listen, the cow has 6 stomachs. We have 1. There's nothing okay in milk. And people will ask, well, how do I give my child the calcium? Give him broccoli.
Yeah. You know what, Shelley, as I'm looking at the time here, I'm thinking right at the bat that once we get your book, and definitely I want to go over it, we're friends with the at my daughter's school, the principal. I want to bring her the book also. I'll get her a copy also of it, and then
I would love it.
Have them start looking at this book and reading it. Recovering Autism, ADHD, and special needs. Have them start reading it, and have them start learning about it, so they can start, looking at it to help these kids. So
I would suggest that you do so, but you have her skip the first 2 chapters, because schools today make money when your child is vaccinated. They make money when their children are vaccinated, so just skip that part, because the minute they hear that vaccines might be a problem, they don't want to have anything to do with it. They're trained otherwise. So I would
cut out the pages. I will cut out those 2 chapters out.
Or photocopy the chapter you want her to see and do one at a time. You could do the one on dyslexia. Dyslexia is not simply reversing letters or numbers. If it was, we could just hold up a mirror. Dyslexia, here's my definition, is a processing of information problem either in the visual, auditory, or kinesthetic mode. And what you'll see in my book is that predominantly I think dyslexia is an auditory problem. That's why kids can't listen to 5 different directions. You can read about that also on my website, betterschoolresults.com. But it's almost more auditory than it is visual. You give a child a bunch of steps of what to do. They can't follow all the steps. You have to do 1 or 2 at a time. Or they can't take a note when the teacher's talking. That's significant.
Well, Shell, I mean, everything that you're saying, it's really incredible. I've been involved with the health of my daughter and my wife also, and we haven't even come across this. And this is now, my daughter's going on 11 years in May.
Right.
So, so these little insights are pretty incredible, that you're bringing up to our audience and myself. So I definitely would see us doing another show in the near future, very near future, on talking about the skin, like you're saying, and talking about, because, I mean, this is really important, and that's what this show is about, everyone. The NDC Savings Club is there to help people, save money and also help them in the healthcare. So, Shelley, at this point, maybe you want to mention again your website and your phone number so people can get in contact with you.
Right. So my website is betterschoolresults.com, and all one word. And my phone number is 310-801-8098, and hopefully they'll actually be able to email me. They'll see it on your site. I think you have my email there.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't even want to talk on the phone anymore. They just want to, go straight to email. And this weekend I'll be at the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books, booth 913. It's a free family event in Los Angeles, obviously. And I'm so honored to have had this opportunity to chat with you, because I have hundreds of these little things in my books, hundreds. So the second book is good. Right. The little one is... Okay.
All right, Shelley, yes, we're running out of time, everyone. My music is coming up. Everyone, thank you for your time, Shelley. Thank you so much. Again, talk to you soon, Shelley, again.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.